Hey everybody, welcome to the West Dakota Dad. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have the time and feel compelled to do so, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, rating, review, whatever it is. It helps me to reach out to more and more people. And for that, I thank you. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about something different from what I normally talk about because we're going to be talking about electric vehicles and the future. Now this all got brought up because my last episode, I was going to started off with some fun facts that happened in 2021 for the first time that didn't have anything to do with the pandemic or politics. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit tough. But one of them really caught my eye, and that was that the sales of zero emission vehicles surpassed diesel sales for the first time ever in Europe. It could have been a blip in the statistics. However, it shows an increase in popularity of electric vehicles. And I thought, interesting. Now, Chevy, GM, and many other auto manufacturers have announced that they will be making either primarily or only electric vehicles by the 2030s, which isn't that far away. I mean, we're only 8 years away from 2030. Now, I do think electric vehicles are pretty neat, but I do like a good internal combustion engine with all the loud roaring pipes and all the horsepower and everything. I still like that, but I'm not going to lie. Electric vehicles are pretty cool because of the instantaneous power they can have. So with that being said, we're actually not going to be talking so much about the vehicles themselves because I don't know every little small fact in and out. These are the facts that I know about electric vehicles. The average is about 200 to 250 miles per charge, depending on how you drive it and the weather conditions. And they can become a backup generator for your house, which is pretty cool. And they can go 0 to 60 in like super fast. But those are kind of the main facts that I know. But we're actually going to be more or less talking about the power grid and what things need to be done in order to make this happen for majority of the vehicles to be electric on our roads. So let's look into that. The first thing I'm going to discuss with you guys, though, is a little term called a watt. A watt is a measurement of electricity. The reason why I bring that up is because your power company bills you in kilowatt hours. If you don't know what a watt or how to find what a watt is, you basically take your voltage times your amperage, and that is how you get a watt. It's kind of like this little triangle of multiplication and division. So you got your watts on top, followed by your volts and your amps. So if you want to find what amps something is using, you just take the total watts, divide it by your voltage, and you have your amps, and vice versa. If you want to find the volts, you do your watts divided by your amps. Just something that most people will never have to use. But as an electrician, I use it quite frequently. But anyways, so with that being said, now these electric vehicles need to be charged. Wow, no brainer, right? So we have many different ways to charge these vehicles. Well, I guess not many. We just have a couple options. For starters, if in your town, you probably have noticed that there are these electric charging stations going up. I think they're called a super charging station or something along those lines. And that is because they take 150 kW, which is 150,000 watts to charge your vehicle. And if you want to pull up there with your vehicle, it will take you 20 minutes to fill up about 50% of your battery, 40 minutes to fill up about 80% of your battery, and a whopping 75 minutes to fill up an entire charge 0 to 100%, depending on make or model of vehicle. So that definitely takes a lot longer than to take your car to the fuel pump and just fill it up, 5-10 minutes, depending on the size of your tank and how fast the pumps are. Sometimes those things are just so dang slow, and then they ask you all the dumbest questions when it's freezing out. Do you want a car wash today? No. Are you a rewards member? No. It's like, I just want to fill up my vehicle before I get frostbite. Okay, maybe that's just a thing here we complain about in the north. But anyways, so that's kind of a big difference there, something to consider. I mean, when you're taking long road trips, you stop every 200, 250 miles or so for an hour, your trip across the state can turn into from a 4-hour trip to about a 6-hour trip. Like, that's a big difference. Sure, you can plan it around, I'm going to go here and eat lunch, or I'm going to go here and shop or something while my car charges. Sure, that's fine. But how many times are you going to do that if you're just trying to get from point A to point B in the smallest amount of time possible? Something to think about. Another thing is, with these supercharging stations, they're not available to be installed at your house. You can charge vehicles at your house, but sadly, most houses, because the standard for a house is to put in a 200 amp service per dwelling, as they say in electrical terms in the National Electrical Code. So it's about 200 amps. Now, there's a lot of houses, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of homes across the nation that are in your older neighborhoods or smaller towns that still only have a 100 amp panel in their house. And so when you bring one of the top line chargers from Tesla and put it in your house, you have to make sure that you take in some things into consideration. For starters, the average home, depending on, like I said, many different factors. Do you have electric forced air heat? Do you have baseboard heat? Do you have, and is it cold a lot? Your air conditioner? Do you have a garage heater? Do you have a hot tub? Do you have a clothes dryer? How often do you do laundry? Do you have an electric range? How often do you cook? Do you have an electric water heater? A lot of different things go into consideration. But on average, the average home at any given time is consuming about 25 to 40 amps of electricity. So if you go to Tesla's website and you look at their chargers, they have 3 different options, I believe. The top one will cost you around $500, plus you probably need an electrician to come, that's me, to come install a dedicated 240 volt 60 amp circuit for that charger. Now, obviously, the charger probably is not taking 60 amps because you can only load a breaker up to 80% just because of inrush currents and whatnot, so you don't trip things. So it's about 48 amps. Now, is that the entire time it's charging? Is it taking 48 amps? Not 100% sure on that. I couldn't find that fact. But that's what the maximum that this charger is probably going to be using. So 48 amps on top of your already 40 some amps in your house. You just pretty much doubled your energy consumption for charging your vehicle. Now, how long does it take to charge at home compared to a charging station? Well, let's just put it this way. That charger said anywhere from 30 to 44 miles per hour of charging. So if you have about a 250 mile charge or batteries, that however, I don't even know how to say that right, okay? But if it takes 250 miles per charge, and you only get 30 to 44 for every hour, depending on make or model of vehicle, it's going to take you about 5 to 8 hours to charge your vehicle. So no problem, just plug it in at night. But the one thing with charging, like at a supercharging station, I believe right now it doesn't cost any money, because I think it's getting flipped back to Tesla through government grants and whatnot. So you don't have to pay for it right now. But you get majority of these vehicles on the road, well, you're probably gonna have to start paying for it. And how much does it cost? Well, like I said, your power company bills you in kilowatt hours, whatever the going rate is, like 7 cents or something like that. It would cost you around, you take your 150 and that into 7 cents, it's probably gonna cost you around $10-11 to fill up your car, which is a lot cheaper than fuel. But now you're charging that at home, do some new math and everything, but let's just say it does cost you that much because you still have to get your battery charged and everything. And you add another $10-11 every time you charge your vehicle at home, your electric bill is going to go through the roof. Not to mention, most families that I know, especially because I'm here in the Midwest and I'm sure a lot of suburb areas and everything, they have more than one vehicle. Mom and dad each have a vehicle. Dad works out of town. Mom works in town, runs errands. Now kids are in high school. They need a vehicle to travel to their high school that's, a ways away or whatever. And so now you have 3+ vehicles at your house. Well, depending on the size of your panel, you can't charge all those vehicles at the same time. Not everybody can just plug their vehicles in at night because you'll trip your main breaker. like I said, that's if it really draws 48 amps with that top of the line charger. They do have other chargers. Their lowest charger I saw looked like more or less a kind of an emergency one. It can plug into a regular outlet, I believe, and it charges about 1 to 2 miles every hour. So that would take a long time. But that's just something to think about when having an electric vehicle. Now, with that being said, all with the charging and everything, and your bill goes up, when we start to put majority of these vehicles on the road, more stations are going to have to be, more supercharging stations are going to have to be installed throughout the neighborhoods and everything. And you're going to have all these houses that need to get brought up to greater services. So all your 100 amp paneled houses are going to have to get the service wires ripped out, bring larger ones in, so you don't start a fire by the insulation on them melting or whatever, or getting red hot. And you have to bring in new wires, you have to bring in a new panel. That's going to cost a lot of money. And then I'm sure eventually, because right now the code is 200 amps per house, I'm sure eventually we're going to have to up those numbers because of these electric vehicles. So that's something to think about if you're a homeowner that's interested in electric vehicles and you only have a 100 amp panel, or if you are looking for a home and you're interested in something like that. So those are some things to consider. But with all these vehicles being charged and we're trying to ramp up this power grid and everything, you need to start looking at where is the energy coming from to even to bring power to these chargers. Well, that comes from your power company. So I got some fun facts here about North Dakota. North Dakota gets primarily 57% of its energy from coal-fired power plants, 31% of its power from wind energy, 8% from hydroelectric, and 4% from natural gas. So if we're going to have everyone plug in their vehicles in every night, because I just see it coming because we plug our phones in every night, what's one more thing? We always, even if we don't need to plug them in, we just want to plug them in because we don't, we always want to have a full battery. That's just, maybe it's just me. I always plug my phone in, especially if it's sitting there idle, because I don't know when I'm going to go a long period of time without a charge. But, everyone's going to be charging at night. Well, now you're going to have to get more power coming out of your power source from your power companies and stuff. So unless they install every square inch of land out here with even more windmills, wind turbines, North Dakota is one of the top 5 states in wind energy. The coal plants are going to have to really ramp up here in order to compensate for a majority of the vehicles being electric. And with the wind energy, if I look south of town here, let's just little thing here. I have some beef with wind energy. I just don't see the benefit to it. Yeah, as far as how much land it takes up for your energy usage. If I look to the south here, it's just a sea of wind turbines. And there are some things with them like, I believe if there's a bald eagle in the area, they all have to shut down. Did I say A? Did I start with 1? I'm just pretend I started with 1. 1, bald eagle, they all shut down. Protected species, okay? Number 2, if it is too windy, they will not go because they have governors on them and whatnot. They don't want to burn those up, and so they don't run them when it's too windy. If there's no wind, they don't run. So there's this window of opportunity for them to run. And if you're not using the energy while they are running, well, you need either a place to store it in battery banks of some sort, or it's getting shipped elsewhere. And I don't know if 31% is truly 100% from all these wind turbines, or if they're being exported to other states or whatnot for energy. I don't know. But yeah, so that's something. I like solar energy as far as renewable energy goes, because there's so many surfaces we have already created that obviously solar arrays in the middle of the desert are probably the best option because, it's not really any land getting used or whatever, and it's really sunny in the southern states. But there's so many surfaces I feel like we already have, like a roof of every single building. If it had some solar panels on it, I think that'd be super beneficial. Now, of course, obviously when it's nighttime or cloudy or snowy, you're not going to get really any energy from them. So you're going to have to make sure you also have a battery bank for storing that energy to use it when you need it, especially in the night hours and stuff. But, and if the cars end up having like solar incorporated into them, so if they are sitting in the middle of a sunny parking lot, they could be charging. Something to think about. And I'm sure with the upcoming years, there's going to be more advancements in technology with the vehicles that it might be less time to charge. They're going to travel further. I don't know. I hope so anyways. But something to think about. So, yeah, we talked about charging them, where the energy comes from. Now let's talk about the batteries themselves that are in these vehicles. I was talking about battery banks for renewable energy and whatnot. Well, these cars are operated off of batteries, lithium batteries. Now, fun fact here. Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia hold 50% of the world's lithium supply, but Australia is the leader in production of 60% of the world's lithium. Little fun fact there for you. But have you ever seen a lithium mine? They are massive. That's a lot of land being moved. And another fun fact, it takes 500,000 gallons of water to harvest 1 ton of lithium. Water is a pretty precious resource. Now, obviously, I don't know, apples to apples of what other things are using that I'm just completely oblivious to or not realizing. But when I saw 500,000 gallons of water to harvest, what seemingly is a small amount of lithium, it kind of made my stomach turn a little bit. And not only that, but lithium batteries do not work very well in the cold, period. I mean, I have some Arlo cameras in front of my house that run on lithium batteries, and they in the summer months, which, I get it, it's only like 4 months out of the year. In the summer months, I could use about 25% of a battery. And then as soon as the winter months come, 75% in like 3 months. Those batteries will drain. I have to change them every single year, and it's always in the wintertime because that's when the batteries just die the quickest. So lithium batteries are not very winter friendly, which is something of a concern up here in the north. Now, I did read an article that a Minnesota man has a Tesla that he has owned for about 8 months, and he said he saw a 40% reduction in mileage during the winter months. So that's a big concern. I mean, now you're getting from 200 miles down to the lower 100-mile range per charge for every time you take your vehicle out and whatnot. So that's a big concern. I hope that's an advancement that comes up. But rule of thumb, anytime you use heat, you are using a lot more energy, because if you take, especially a wire that's too small, and you put too many amps through it, and the resistance is really high right there, you're gonna get some heat. It's kind of like heating elements and whatnot. It's kind of something like happens with that. So with the resistance and whatnot. But anyways, like I said, this is kind of an episode that was more of like a public service announcement for those of you that are considering electric vehicles. Don't take 100% everything I said for gospel, because facts change. Maybe some of my sources weren't super reliable or whatever, but that is the gist of some of the things I see as an electrician. I don't think many other people really think about. So definitely do your due diligence and do some of your own research to think of, is my house a good fit for having an electric vehicle, or would I be okay with always going to charge at a supercharging station, whatever it is. Do I live in the north where right now the cars aren't getting the maximum potential that they would in the south or something? I don't know. But that's what I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Another little bit of a long one. I got a little long-winded. Hopefully it wasn't too scatterbrained for you. But until next time, I'm the West Dakota Dad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good month.